to today. And I would like to thank Dr. Himanshu Sharma and Dr. Harsh Rajdeep for organizing this event. So my topic is today the combined approach like physiotherapy, diet, and yoga in the management of hemorrhoids, both during and after pregnancy. So without wasting enough time, I think we will start with our first slide that will be of introduction. So Himanshu, have you put the introduction, please?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We are on
Yeah.
introduction.
So
Yeah.
okay. So
Yes.
the what is hemorrhoids? Actually, the word hemorrhoids, it comes from the Greek word hema, means blood, and brachos means flow, meaning flow of the blood. And the first who used this word were Hippocrates, 1460 BC. So the hemorrhoid is popularly used for pathological enlargement of the internal or external anal cushions. So these are, hemorrhoids are part of our body. These are normal structures, but we all have the misconception that it is something abnormal which is coming out or suddenly developed in our body. So that's not the case. Now, hemorrhoids are very common anorectal disease in general population, and it is one of the very common colorectal complaint. So it is very, very important as a physio, women's health physio, and for all the obstetrician gynecologists that they all should be familiar with the hemorrhoids, its diagnosis and its treatment. And despite this condition, it's so prevalent, but people, the professional, have very little experience about the impact on our daily lifestyle and specifically the impact of hemorrhoids in pregnancy. And all the doctors, they do not constitute this as a problem or disease unless the patient become very symptomatic and it start affecting their daily life. So slowly and gradually, if these hemorrhoids left untreated, then they become into a crisis and it start giving a lot of problem to the patient. So according to Dr. Howard Levine, 2017, according to him, most of the people in all over the world, they are just fighting with the hemorrhoids by their own, by taking some medication or they buy some ointments or gel over the counter from the pharmacy, right? And there was another study which was done by Mott et al. 2018 on in which like he did a study on a patients who were undergoing a routine colorectal cancer screening, which confirmed that there was large number of people who feel so hesitate, who feel so shy in disclosing their problem to any health professional. And they feel ashamed because they don't want to discuss, they feel embarrassing. So this condition, it's very prevalent, and I think not pregnant or female or it's not about during pregnancy or after delivery. I think at some point all the male female child, they have got hemorrhoid in their part of their life as well. So today what I'm trying to say, that the treatment which I will discuss with you, the physiotherapy, yoga, or diet, the topic is, however, related to pregnancy and after delivery. But yes, if any non-physio who is listening me today can also, it can be used to anyone. And if you're having any male patient in your clinic, you can also suggest the same treatment, what I'm discussing with you as well. So, okay, so another, next slide, please, about hemorrhoid and hemorrhoidal disease.
Yes, ma'am. We are on this slide.
So first thing is, what are hemorrhoids? So hemorrhoids are also known as anal cushions, and these are normal anatomical structures that can be seen in the human embryo from the 8th week of gestation. Okay, so these are quite important in our body and they play a very important function. So the first and the foremost function of the anal cushions or hemorrhoids are, like when they are at rest, they act as a they act as a cushion, they act as a plug which are full of blood, and they help in maintaining the fecal continence, right? Specifically when we are doing some high impact exercises. So when we jump, when we run, when we cough or sneeze or laugh, we know that these activities are highly strenuous activity, and it increases the intra-abdominal pressure. So these hemorrhoids, they act as a blood plug, and they absorb the intra-abdominal pressure and maintain the fecal continence. So the very important function of anal cushion or hemorrhoid, it's maintain the fecal continence. Another important function is that anal cushions help in closing the anal canal after defecation. So you can imagine if ladies who are having hemorrhoids, that you will see that they often complain of leaking from the back passage, because when the hemorrhoids are coming or descending from their normal position, they fail to close the anal canal. So hemorrhoids help in closing the anal canal. That's very important function of anal cushions. Now, together with internal and external sphincter, anal cushions also help in maintaining the anal pressure. And excuse me. And apart from closing the anal canal, these anal cushions also help in preventing the tearing of the anal canal after defecation. So these are the major 4 important functions of the hemorrhoids, right? But what is, when it start becoming the problem, when we say that, okay, we have a disease. So when hemorrhoids become the disease, so hemorrhoids, excuse me, hemorrhoids start becoming disease when they start displacing down, when they start coming down from their normal position, right? So then it becomes the disease. And the exact cause of the hemorrhoidal disease are unknown. There is no exact pathophysiology or etiological factor. It's still unknown, but constipation, abnormal bowel habits, or increased maximum resting anal pressures are considered as a very important culprit in the hemorrhoidal disease. And hemorrhoids become very symptomatic, and they become a problem if there is a damage to the structure, or if there is any alteration in the normal function, or sometimes both. So if hemorrhoids are not functioning properly, or if there is any disruption in their anatomical structure, then the hemorrhoids become the disease, okay? Which may involve prolapse, which means the forward or downward displacement of part of the rectal mucosa, or other complications like thrombosis, which is the blood clots in the hemorrhoidal blood vessels, or the fissures like a break or slit in the anus. Okay, now today my main focus will be on the treatment, so I'm not going into the depth of hemorrhoids or the anatomy and other bits. So we will focus more on the treatment. So that's all in brief. Now the third slide, please. Anatomy, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Another slide, anatomy, yeah. So the anatomy of the hemorrhoids, like hemorrhoids are present in the anal canal, and we know that anal canal is the last portion of the rectum, and it is 3 to 4 centimeter long. So anal canal has a triradiate lumen, which is lined by 3 fibrovascular cushions of the submucosal tissues. And these cushions are suspended in the anal canal by the connective tissue. So hemorrhoids, like in the anal canal, you will see that hemorrhoids are usually found in 3 main locations: left lateral, right anterior, and the right posterior portion. And they lie beneath the epithelial lining of the anal canal, and they are mainly supplied by the terminal branch of the superior rectal and superior hemorrhoidal arteries, and to a lesser extent, they are supplied from the inferior and middle hemorrhoidal arteries and the surrounding connecting tissues. Now, very important part, anal canal is divided by the dentate line. So I hope whoever listening today, they all are very thorough with the anatomy. So anal canal is divided by dentate line. So we have 2 types of hemorrhoids: internal hemorrhoids and external hemorrhoids. So internal hemorrhoids are found above the dentate line, and they are covered by columnar cells that have a visceral innervation. And external hemorrhoids are located below the dentate line, and these are covered by enoderm. And these tissues contain pain fiber, and it affects how patient present and treated. So this is about, in brief, the external and internal hemorrhoid. Now, other very important structures are tris muscle. Tris muscle means pelvic floor muscle, and the important part is pubococcygeus, iliococcygeus, ischiococcygis, and the very important muscle which make this tris is puborectalis. So tris muscle is located between the anal mucosa or anoderm and internal anal sphincter. So when the hemorrhoid proceed, or when the hemorrhoid descending down from their normal position, this tris muscle stretch and it's split into pieces, which is irreversible. Okay, so therefore it is very, very important muscle in the formation of the hemorrhoid. So that is pelvic floor actually. Okay, so if hemorrhoids are displacing from the normal position, this puborectalis, pubococcygeus, ilio, ischiococcygis, they start splitting into pieces, right? And there was a study which was done by Yang in 2014, and he mentioned that whether it is mild hemorrhoid or severe hemorrhoid, pelvic floor muscle are the main muscles which get damaged. Okay, so that's why in physiotherapy, pelvic floor exercises play a very important role in the management of the hemorrhoids. Now, I will just discuss with you in brief about other structures which are quite important for hemorrhoids, like internal sphincters, conjoint longitudinal muscle, and external anal sphincter. As you all know, what is internal sphincter? It is the circular muscle of the rectum, and it becomes very thicker gradually and finally become the internal sphincter. So internal sphincter is nothing, it's a circular muscles which get very thick and turn into a sphincter. And it is innervated by the autonomic nervous system, and it is responsible for approximately 60 to 80% of the resting anal pressure. Right, so as we have discussed that internal sphincter, anal cushions, and external sphincter, they all work together and maintain the anal pressure, but 60-80% is the work of internal sphincter. So patient who have the hemorrhoids, they will show higher anal pressure than the normal people, and the activity of internal sphincter is usually increased. Now, another important structure is conjoint longitudinal muscle. This muscle is attached to the internal sphincter, puborectalis muscle, and external sphincter. And it does not have any sphincter function, but the main thing is it fixes the anal canal to the pelvis, which prevent it to prolapse. So this conjoint longitudinal muscle, it contracts during defecation to make the anal canal short, wide, and open. And another structure, which is the external anal sphincter. So the external anal sphincter is the skeletal muscle, as we all know, and it is surrounding the anal canal from the outside of the internal sphincter and longitudinal muscle, and it creates 25% of the resting anal pressure, and it enables to control an interruption of the defecation. So this is all about, another slide please, in which you can see the diagram of internal and external hemorrhoids. So you can see in this internal, can you see?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can see internal and external hemorrhoids. You can see the dented line, which is blue color. You can see the blue arrow. The internal hemorrhoids, it's the pinky one, and external hemorrhoids, you can see purplish. And next slide, please, again. So which is showing the anus with hemorrhoids. So you can see more clearly, this is our anus, the back passage. You can see external hemorrhoids, and you can see the internal hemorrhoids as well. Okay. Now, another slide, please, which is pathophysiology.
Yeah.
The pathophysiology of hemorrhoids, it's unknown, as I mentioned to you initially. However, there are different theories behind supporting the pathophysiology of hemorrhoid. And the most current theory that we are using nowadays is sliding anal cushion theory. So this is the theory which was proposed in 1975 by Thomson, and it says that hemorrhoids are nothing but these are the displacement, distal displacement of the anal cushion. And this theory was also supported by Guess and Adams, who mentioned that if there is any pelvic floor dysfunction, then those patients will always suffer with hemorrhoid disease, hemorrhoid problem. Okay, so relaxation of the pelvic floor muscle may be the main cause of the prolapse according to Guess and Adams. So that's why pelvic floor, so if you are seeing any patient in your clinic, it's very, very important. You have to, if it's pregnant lady or after delivery, you have to discuss, you have to ask about the hemorrhoids, and you have to look for pelvic floor muscle in that case. Now there are another theory, but these are quite old theories, so I'm not going into the depth of all, but just for your knowledge, the old theories were vascular hyperplasia theory, varicose vein theory, and the theory of internal anal sphincter hypertonia. Now, what is vascular hyperplasia theory? Just in one line, I will just like to tell you that many years ago, people were thinking hemorrhoids as a tumor because they are small, they are round in shape, and they are quite lumpy, just look like a tumor. So people were thinking that, okay, it is something like hyperplasia, it is something like hemangiomas, but this theory is not in role at the moment. Varicose vein theory, initially people had the myth that hemorrhoids are the varicose vein of the back passage, like we have the varicose vein in our legs, in the thighs. So similarly, people were thinking that hemorrhoids are nothing but these are the varicose vein. However, after many research and studies, they found that no, these are not varicose vein, these are anal cushions, and these are the important part of our body, important part of the anal canal. So as a result, that theory has also been discarded. And the last theory is the theory of internal anal sphincter hypertonia. So initially there was like people who were having anal pain or any type of venous congestion, they were thinking that it's all because of the hyperactivity in the internal anal sphincter. But again, like after many research and studies, they found that it's nothing to do with internal anal sphincter, and patients, yes, they can feel pain or venous congestion because of the hemorrhoids, because of the anal cushion. So that theory also has been discarded. If you want to go in the depth of these theory, yes, I have mentioned the name of all, but the current one is sliding anal cushion theory that we are accepting nowadays. Now, etiology of, and so next slide, please, about etiological factors.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, there are various etiological factors. However, I've told you initially, it's still, there is no specific etiology about hemorrhoids, but there are so many at the moment. So the most common etiological factors are if the age above 30 years or increased BMI, or if there is a positive family history of perianal disease, or birth weight of newborn. So like if the baby weight is like 8 pounds, 10 pounds, 11 pounds, it's quite common to have hemorrhoids after that, or constipation during pregnancy, or multiparity, like ladies having a lot of babies, episiotomy, perineal laceration, or if you're straining during delivery more than 20 minutes or half an hour or 1 hour, or vaginal deliveries. Next slide, please. Yep. Are you okay with next slide?
Yes, ma'am. We are on the next slide.
Okay, so prolonged straining, low fiber diet, obesity or pregnancy, chronic diarrhea, anal intercourse, cirrhosis with ascites, or pelvic floor dysfunction, which I've already mentioned, and we will discuss a bit more later in the treatment part, heredity factor, inappropriate physical activity, spinal paralysis and psychological problem. And next slide, please, again.
Yes, ma'am.
Inadequate intake of the dietary fiber, too much time on the commode, spicy food, and alcohol intake. So you can see these are all the contributing factors which give rise to hemorrhoids. So yes, it's very important to know the etiologies and to work on that. Next slide, please.
Yes, classification.
So another slide is of the classification. Now, classification, again, I will not go in the depth of that. So hemorrhoids typically occur, as I mentioned in the anatomy, that they are typically occur in the right anterior, right posterior, and the left lateral zone of the anal canal. And they can be internal or external, as we have already discussed. Now, what are external hemorrhoids? So external hemorrhoids also I have discussed with you. These are located below the dentate line of the anus, and they are covered by squamous epithelium, and they are generally painful. So external hemorrhoids are not very painful. And internal hemorrhoids are located above the dentate line, and they are covered by rectal mucosa, and they are usually painless as well. So patient can have both internal and external hemorrhoids, and they can occur concurrently as well. Now, internal hemorrhoids are further subdivided into, according to Gallagher's classification, grade 1 or first degree hemorrhoids, grade 2 second degree hemorrhoids, grade 3 third degree, and grade 4 fourth degree hemorrhoids. Now, what are these grading? So according to Gallagher's, like grade 1 or first degree hemorrhoids means that anal cushions are bleeding, but they are not prolapsing, right? These are enlarged and painless, but they are not prolapsed. Grade 2 means second degree hemorrhoids, means anal cushions are prolapsing on straining, but they reduce spontaneously at the same time. What are grade 3? Which means that anal cushions are prolapsing on straining or exertion, and they need manual reduction. So people who have grade 3 hemorrhoids, they need to reduce or push it back by using their hands. And grade 4 hemorrhoids means if the hemorrhoids are, once they are outside, they are irreducible and they remain all the time. They are not going back again. So that's the very severe thing. Okay. Um, Slide please of the classification diagram.
Yeah.
So you can see the classification diagram. These are grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, and grade 4 internal hemorrhoids. And there are patients who can also have mixed hemorrhoids, which are known as intero-external hemorrhoids, and are located both above and below the dentate line. Next slide, please, again.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is of the hemorrhoids, right? Where you can see this slide, and you can see this is grade 4 prolapse. And as I said, if any of the doctor or as a woman's health physio, as a clinician, if you are ignoring this problem, then it can turn into this. You can see this slide. You can see this image, how severe, and these are all prolapsing out. Okay, so another slide, please. Hemorrhoids during pregnancy.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so now our topic, so the main thing is what are the different factors like which give hemorrhoids, like where pregnant ladies complain of hemorrhoids during pregnancy. So what are the reasons for that? Now, apart from the reasons what we have discussed, but specifically in pregnancy, the most common reason or the factor you will say is the hormonal changes, as we all know, right? So it is thought that hemorrhoids like develop during pregnancy due to the effect of estrogen and progesterone on the body. So progesterone and estrogen cause increased growth and dilatation of the veins, as well as they increase the blood volume. And these hormones also relax the musculature of the gastrointestinal tract and giving rise to constipation. So hormones are one of the contributing factor during pregnancy behind giving hemorrhoidal disease. Another important factor is weight of the gravid uterus. So it plays a very important role, and this factor thought to contribute to the formation of the hemorrhoids during pregnancy. And the weight of the gravid uterus, so when the size of the baby increase, the weight of the gravid uterus on the inferior vena cava inhibit the venous return from the rectum and the anus. So when the baby start pressing the inferior vena cava, it stops returning. The venous return start it inhibits the venous return, my apologies, venous return to the rectum and the anus, and therefore it results in venous congestion in this area, and it gives rise to constipation. Sorry, I'm just discussing with you in very brief about all those things. And another important contributing factor is straining during defecation. So we know that in pregnancy, constipation is very, very common, and there are many pregnant ladies who strain on day-to-day basis. So constant straining due to constipation. It is very common, which is related to pregnancy, and it intensify the venous pressure. It cause engorgement. It compromise the venous return, and specifically in the hemorrhoids. It result in the dilatation of the plexus. It result into venous stasis. It result into venous inflammation, and which in turn it tend to erode the epithelium and the vessel wall in the anal cushion and causing bleeding. So yeah, these are the things happening when you are straining, if you're having constipation. So during pregnancy, another factor is during pregnancy, there is an exacerbation or reoccurrence of the previous hemorrhoids due to higher susceptibility of the pregnant woman to hemorrhoids. So for example, if you are seeing a patient in the clinic and she's third time pregnant, and if she's already having a history of hemorrhoid, then yes, she will have more probability of having severe hemorrhoids in her third or fourth pregnancy. And if she was left untreated, then yes, it will create a lot of nuisance or problem in a third or fourth pregnancy. So it's very, very important, if you're seeing any patient on the first day, any pregnant ladies, or even after delivery, or whoever you're seeing, it's not about pregnant lady, as I said, then you have to take into consideration the history of hemorrhoid. That's very important as a clinician. And apart from hormones, apart from weight of the baby uterus, apart from constipation or straining, there are other factors like any changes or alteration in the physiology, biochemical, mechanical factor, or as we know that during pregnancy, the lifestyle change and the diet also change. And these all together creates nuisance, create problem, and these are contributing factor in the development of the hemorrhoids during pregnancy. Another slide, please, of prevalence.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, prevalence, how much it is prevalent? It is very prevalent problem, as we are all aware of. So we can see the percentage. The prevalence of hemorrhoids in all over the world is approximately 50 to 85%. And in India, it is 75% of the population. So the prevalence of hemorrhoid in India, according to a recent survey, is around 40 million, and it's affecting as much as half of the population by the age of 60. So in 1990, an epidemiological study of the hemorrhoids was done in United States, and it revealed that 4.4% of the people were having the hemorrhoids. And in 21st century, from the South Korea and Austria, there was some figure showing that hemorrhoids in adult populations were 14.4% and 38.9% respectively in both countries. And it has been estimated that 25% of British people, 75% of American citizens will experience the hemorrhoid at some point in their life, and especially in pregnant women and elderly adults. So in pregnancy, if I talk about the prevalence in pregnancy, approximately over 8% of hemorrhoids develop during the gestational period, during first or second trimester, and 7.9% there are ladies who get thrombosed external hemorrhoid in their last trimester, which is 7.9%. So that's the percentage you can see. So 8% during first or second trimester, and 7.9% they can have thrombosed external hemorrhoid in the end of their pregnancy. Next slide, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Symptoms. Now, what are the symptoms? Symptoms are usually mild and transient, and it includes intermittent bleeding from the anus, burning sensation, itching, varying degree of leakage of the mucus, feces, flatulence, or perianal hygienic problem, discomfort, excuse me, discomfort, pain, or both. So these are some common symptoms. Like patient who are having hemorrhoids, they will complain you that I feel a lot of itchiness, or I'm leaking from the back passage, or I'm passing a lot of wind, or they also have some hygienic problem, not very clean, and burning sensation. And the most common symptom during pregnancy are pain and intermittent bleeding. So in pregnancy, there are ladies, they will complain of I'm having a lot of pain, and they will often complain of bleeding as well. However, this bleeding is not usually severe, and sometimes after the delivery, it just settles down. Most of the time, now here come our role. So again, as I said, if you're seeing any lady in the clinic, just look for hemorrhoid, because if you're not treating during pregnancy this problem, then slowly and gradually that pain what the lady is complaining of, it start getting worse, and slowly and gradually it start affecting their quality of life. And sometimes it's very mild discomfort, so sometimes they really struggle in dealing with their daily lifestyle. They struggle, like they will tell you that, oh, because of the hemorrhoids, because of the pain, I can't walk, I can't sit, I can't open my bowels. Or sometimes I have seen ladies in my clinic, they literally cry because they are in pain, or they find difficulty sleeping or carrying their, if they already have small children, they really struggle looking after the new small babies as well. So now if we talk about chronic hemorrhoids, so the major clinical symptom and sign of the chronic hemorrhoids include prolapse of the internal hemorrhoids out of the anal canal during bowel movement. So how you will know it is acute or chronic hemorrhoid? So if you examine, if you know how to do examination of the hemorrhoid, and if you see that, okay, if the internal hemorrhoids are prolapsing out of the anal canal during bowel movements, that could be one of the indication of symptom of chronic hemorrhoid. Or if there is a discharge of blood from the anal canal during defecation, and if there is a presence of enlarged external hemorrhoid. Okay, and more rare symptoms of the chronic hemorrhoids are feeling of discomfort, moisture in the anal area, itching, burning in the anus, or mucus discharge. So if the hemorrhoids are very chronic, patient uh, uh, will complain of itching, burning, or mucus discharge, but these are quite rare. And pain in the chronic hemorrhoid is rare, as I mentioned, and usually associated with complication of the disease and the occurrence of the anal fissure and rectal fistula. What about acute hemorrhoids? So what are the symptoms of acute hemorrhoid? Pain in the anal area and rectum, and symptoms include bleeding, mucosal or fecal swelling, itching, and very occasional pain, and progressive venous engorgement and incarceration of acutely inflamed hemorrhoidal leads to thrombosis and sometimes infarction. So these are, this is all in brief I'm telling you, because as I said, our main topic is treatment. So these are the symptoms. You can take a note. I've just mentioned on the slide if you're listening. And another slide, please. So you can show the symptoms continuation slide, please.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
these are the symptoms, like you can see for acute hemorrhoids, like pain in the anal area, rectum, bleeding, mucosal or fecal swelling. Yep, is that okay all? Yep, I hope
yeah,
so.
yeah,
So
we are on this
yeah,
slide.
so we can move to diagnosis.
Yeah. Diagnosis or on the acute hemorrhoids. Diagnosis. Okay,
Yeah,
fine.
acute diagnosis, yeah, okay. So diagnosis, now it's very, very important part of the hemorrhoid. And as I mentioned, we are not expecting like it's the job of gynecologist or the obstetrician to diagnose the hemorrhoid, but we cannot run away as a woman's health physio that, okay, I'm the physio, sorry, I don't know how to examine. So you should be very thorough with the examination of the hemorrhoid, because if you're seeing any patient in your clinic, you have to see the extent, and that's why I've explained you everything chronic and acute and different sign and symptom. So diagnosis of hemorrhoid is based on precise history, and it requires thorough physical examination including rectal digital examination and also anoscopy. And you also have to do inspection of the perineal area for skin tags, fissure, fistula, polyps, and tumor. So these are the things you have to take into consideration when you're examine the patient. You have to look for these things. Just keep in the back of your mind that, okay, you have to look for skin tags and other bits as well, like tumor. It could be tumor as well. Don't always think of hemorrhoid. So you have to look some other possible factors as well. Now, there are some important positions that we advise to, in theory, it is mentioned that these are the positions that patient should be examined for hemorrhoids. And the most preferred position is probably the left lateral one, because it is the most comfortable, less embarrassing, and easiest to maintain for the patient. And in this position, actually, patient has to lie on the left hand side, and it's quite easy to see the hemorrhoids because you have to pull the buttocks apart, so it's quite easy. But however, patient who are very obese, it's very hard position for those obese people to adopt. Another important position is lithotomy position, which can sometimes provoke humiliating feeling in female patient. So most of the time, this position is not used, specifically in female lithotomy position. However, and it is also not very better for digital rectal examination, but doctors who are doing rectoscopic examination, this position is considered as a very good position or very convenient. And however, the disadvantage is it is very hard to maintain the position for a long time. And another important position which we advise to use is knee chest position to examine the hemorrhoids, in which you don't have to pull the buttocks apart. However, again, the disadvantage is it is very hard position, patients who are very elderly. Now, how you will make the diagnosis? What are the presentation of the hemorrhoids? How you can see whether it is chronic hemorrhoids or grade 1 hemorrhoids or acute hemorrhoid. So the most common presentation of the hemorrhoid, it will be painless. And there will be a rectal bleeding during defecation with or without prolapsing the anal tissue. Then you will also see if the blood is not missed, but instead it will be present on the outer aspect of the number 2. So if when you are passing number 2, you will see the blood on the outer aspect. It will not mix with the poo. And it is also seen while cleaning your back passage. So if you are wiping your passages with the tissue, you can see the blood on the tissue. It means it's coming from the hemorrhoids. And the blood will be typically bright red in color, because we have discussed it has an arteriovenous communication. Next slide, please, of diagnosis, which is continuous external and internal hemorrhoids.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, how you will know it is external or internal hemorrhoids? So external, patient with complicated hemorrhoids, such as acute from usually tenderness, they will complain of swelling, and the external hemorrhoid will be blue in color or reddish ovoid mass, which is visible at the anal margin. So these are the typical sign of external hemorrhoid. They will be tender, they will be quite swollen, they are blue or reddish in color like an ovoid mass and very close to the anal margin. And internal hemorrhoids, you can't ideally palpate the internal hemorrhoids. But unfortunately, if they are prolapsing outside, as I mentioned when I told you the classification of the internal hemorrhoid. So if it's grade 4 internal hemorrhoid, then you can see it as a red in color. It will be very moisty, and it will just like a protruding big mass. And I showed you the images as well. So those images were all of the internal hemorrhoids grade 4. And sometimes internal hemorrhoid cause bright red hemorrhaging, especially during defecation. So if any patient is complaining of lot of blood during defecation, could be a possible sign of internal hemorrhoid. Now, apart from when you are making a diagnosis, you have to make sure that don't always look for, like for instance, if any patient is complaining of, oh, I'm bleeding, I'm having a lot of pain, then you don't have to only think that, okay, she will have hemorrhoid, that's fine. So you can't ignore that thing. You have to go for very thorough history, a proper assessment to rule out any other serious condition like anal fissure, irritable bowel syndrome, or it can be carcinoma of the colon, it can be carcinoma of the rectum or of the back passage. So you have to take a very thorough history and information from the patient to rule out whether it is exactly the hemorrhoid or is it something else. So that's all in very brief. I have discussed with you about anatomy, classification, symptoms, diagnosis. Now we are coming on the main part, which is the management. So next slide, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, the treatment of hemorrhoid, especially during pregnancy, as we know, it's mainly directed toward the symptoms, because in pregnancy we can't do much. So our aim, so you will get a lot of patients like, oh, I'm in pain. Mainly the pregnant ladies, I'm in lot pain. What to do? So that's our main aim is during pregnancy to relieve the symptoms, specifically the pain. Okay. However, after the delivery, the pain, the symptom of pain, most of the time resolve, and there is no need of any further treatment like any medication or surgery, because hemorrhoids, as I said, mostly resolve. But in certain situation, hemorrhoids don't resolve, they need further treatment. Okay, so now treatment should be individualized, and it depending on the clinical presentation. You can't use the same treatment for all the patients of the hemorrhoid, as we have discussed classification, diagnosis, treatment, clinical symptom. So you have to make decision that what treatment is useful for what patient. So if I'm telling you today the physiotherapy treatment, it's a very general treatment. It doesn't mean that if you're seeing 10 patients in the clinic having hemorrhoid, you're telling all those patients the same thing, just do this. No, the treatment vary from person to person. So treatment should be individualized depending on the clinical presentation, type, and the severity of the hemorrhoid. It also depends, the treatment also depend on the nature of pregnancy, whether it is a normal pregnancy or it's a high risk pregnancy. It also depends on period of gestation. You have to take into consideration whether patient is taking any medication like anticoagulants, platelets agent, or any other medication like herbal medicine. A thorough investigation, thorough history, medical information, position of the baby, nature of pregnancy, whether patient is going for normal delivery or C-section. So many things take into consideration only to make decision of the treatment of hemorrhoid. So the first and the foremost treatment is the conservative treatment. So I've divided the management into conservatory, and it is further subdivided into physiotherapy, diet, and yoga, which is our topic today. And there are other treatment, alternative, medication, and surgery. So next slide, please. If you go on physiotherapy, please.
Yes, ma'am.
In physiotherapy, now here comes our role. In physiotherapy, education is very, very important. So as a physiotherapist, it's very important that don't start the treatment on the first day. And it's not about women's health physio, it's not about hemorrhoids. All the physio, I think they should educate their patient. So if you're seeing any pregnant lady coming in your clinic or even after delivery, you have to tell her what are hemorrhoid, what is anatomy, and what are the impact, what can be the symptoms, and the importance of pelvic floor muscle. So proper education of the hemorrhoid and its implication and how it can affect if you're ignoring on the first day if you're seeing patients. So education is very important. Now another important thing is pelvic floor exercise. According to NICE guidelines, we should advise the patient pelvic floor to do at least 3 times a day to maximum 5 times a day. And as you all listening to me, I don't have to tell them how to do pelvic floor. We usually advise according to guidelines. There are 2 exercises, that's squeezing your all 3 passages, pulling up, and relaxing. So we advise for 10 squeezes. And second one is squeezing, pulling up, holding for 10 seconds, and relaxing. So these 2 exercises we advise to strengthen the weak pelvic floor. Now again, it's very, very important, before prescribing your pelvic floor exercise program, you have to do an internal vaginal examination, which I've discussed in my previous webinar as well. So you have to examine and you have to find out whether muscles are very weak or muscles are very tight, right? Because ladies who are pregnant or after delivery specifically, if they are having perineal trauma, or if they are in the prolonged, if they had very long labor, or if they had any stitches or anything, or big baby or huge baby, they often have very weak pelvic floor muscle, and they will also have, not all, but most of the time they will have hemorrhoids as well. Okay, so the action of pelvic floor, that's squeezing and pulling up, it's very important in the treatment of hemorrhoid. And touch wood, I have seen so many ladies in the clinic, and we do get referral from the doctor only for hemorrhoids, like lot of pain in the back passage, treat this patient for hemorrhoid. So we get a lot of a lot of referral, and by doing pelvic floor exercises, I will not say 100%, but 70 to 80% ladies mention that, okay, I'm getting much better since I have started the pelvic floor exercises. So make sure that squeezing, pulling, that pulling action of pelvic floor is very important in the management of hemorrhoid. And if you think muscles are very, very weak, then you can also advise the patient some gadgets. They can put some device in the vagina so that they can work on their pelvic floor muscle. They can strengthen their pelvic floor muscle more quickly. Now, if it's very important, again, if you're seeing a patient who don't know how to squeeze the pelvic floor, and it's our job to teach them how to engage or how to squeeze the pelvic floor correctly. Because if you're not squeezing the pelvic floor correctly, what will happen? It will lead to overstraining of the anal sphincter, and there will lead to an excessive blood accumulation in the venous plexus, and this will increase your hemorrhoid. So if any of your patient don't know how to squeeze the pelvic floor muscle, then they will in turn make their hemorrhoid worse. So it is our job as a clinician that during examination, you're asking the patient that, okay, do you know what you're doing? Can you feel the squeezes? Those type of things. On the other hand, if you think if pelvic floor muscles are very tight, because we know that if muscles are tight, then patient often have constipation problem, and constipation is one of the biggest culprit in the hemorrhoids, right? So our job is to relax the muscle. So you can have hemorrhoid if the muscles are weak, and you can have hemorrhoid if the muscles are tight because of the constipation. And in both cases, our role is very important. So we have to teach the patient to strengthen the muscle so that we can relieve the hemorrhoid symptom. And if the muscles are tight, then our job is to relax the muscle by using different techniques, which I will discuss with you. And so that we can relieve constipation problem, so that patient can stop straining and pushing, and in turn they can relieve the hemorrhoids problem. So pelvic floor exercises, I'm not going into like, okay, I think we use perfect scheme and we use Oxford scale to measure the pelvic floor strength. Oxford scale 0 to 5. 0 means no contraction, flaccid. 1 means flicker. 2 means very weak muscle. And 3 means little bit more good muscles are in good position. And 4 and 5 strong, moderate, and very strong muscle. I hope you are aware of Oxford scale and you are aware of perfect scheme. Now, next slide, please. So another important thing is soft tissue release. So as I mentioned that if muscles are weak, yes, we are strengthening the muscle, but what if the muscles are very tight and if patient is complaining of constipation? And yes, you will get so many patients who will say that I have not emptied my number 2, I have not emptied my bowel since 3 days. Just few weeks ago, I just talked to one of the lady on the phone, and she was pregnant and she was having severe constipation and hemorrhoid, and she was going to open the bowels only once in a week, and she was on the laxative, and she was also using suppositories. So you can imagine. So from the soft tissue release point of view, you can use various technique, like you can use massage, excuse me. You can use static compression, you can use stretching, you can use muscle energy technique, you can use manipulative technique, you can use positional release, you can use proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. So these are the techniques you can use if you find that your pelvic floor muscles are very tight. You can release the muscle vaginally, you can also release the muscle rectally. Okay, so and as we know that pelvic, if muscles are very tight, they're often present with trigger points. So patients who have tight muscles, they often complain of lot of pain in the vagina, a lot of pain in the back passage. So it's very important for you to treat the trigger points by using these different techniques. And the advantage of using these techniques are, as we know, it increases the circulation, it increases the muscle length, it breaks the adhesion, it relaxes the muscle, and decrease the pain and the swelling. So first treatment in the soft tissue release is you have to release the pelvic floor. Another important thing is you have to do hemorrhoidal massage. Now, hemorrhoidal massage I do in the clinic. So I use, you can do manual reduction. So you can also teach the patient. So I personally use like thumb kneading massage. Okay. So you can tell the patient to lie on the side, legs open. So I've discussed the position. You can choose the position depending on the patient condition and all, and depending on the pain as well. And you can use your thumb and you can do some thumb kneading massage, and you can also help, you can also reduce the hemorrhoids and put it back in as well. So you need expertise while doing that. You can't do it. You should have some training in massaging the hemorrhoids. And you can see a small image, and sometimes we advise the lady like peristal massager. So you can see the image, it looks like that. And peristal massager are purely for the hemorrhoids. So again, you should know, if you like to how it works, we can either discuss in different webinar, or if you want to know, you can see on the YouTube as well. And we advise, yes, we use a lot here in our practice. However, we don't keep this device in our department, but we advise to buy from the market. And sometimes we advise and show them in the clinic how to massage the hemorrhoid. Now, so hemorrhoidal massage. So after pelvic floor release, hemorrhoidal massage is very important in the soft tissue release. Then another thing is you have to do some abdominal massage. So abdominal massage, like if you're having constipation, then it's very important for you to teach the patient how to massage the abdomen. So what you have to do, you have to start from the ascending colon. So you have to start from the right side of your pelvis to the right lower lip. So you have to keep your hand in the between the right pelvis and the right lower lip. There is your ascending colon. Okay, you have to give a pressure. So you can see me. So you have to give a pressure starting from here and going into your tummy. Then you are going into descending colon, and then you are coming back. Okay, so starting from ascending colon, which is from the right pelvis to the right lower lip, then you are giving the pressure, and you are going to the transverse colon, which is your right lower lip rib to the left lower rib. Then you are going to the descending colon, which is your left lower rib to the left pelvis, and then you are giving pressure into the pelvis. So always start from the right side if you are massaging the abdomen for constipation. And this massage help in enhancing the peristalsis movement. Okay, so people who have constipation, yes, personally I advise them abdominal massage, and it really work, it really help. And apart from abdominal massage or hemorrhoidal massage, you have to go for vaginal massage, you have to do rectal massage, and you also have to do sphincter release. Okay, so people having hemorrhoids, people having constipation, the soft tissue release include pelvic floor release, hemorrhoidal massage manually or peristal, you can use that device, abdominal massage, vaginal massage, rectal release, and you can also release the sphincter. So this is something about soft tissue release. Next slide, please. Of biofeedback.
Yeah, we are on this slide.
So biofeedback, it's a machine you can use. So we can use biofeedback if patient, again, having weak muscle, or patient also having tight muscle. We need to have, like, you will see a lot of patient complaining of, oh, it's a long time. I've been doing my exercises, but still I don't feel whether I'm squeezing my pelvic floor muscle correctly. In that case, our protocol here is that you have to refer, either you can try if your clinics are not busy, and if you're okay, then you can do biofeedback, or sometimes we refer in the community to see a specialized nurse for the biofeedback. So we use biofeedback a lot, and biofeedback helps in teaching the patient using the correct muscle and engaging the correct muscle. And it's very important because we have discussed that if your patient is doing wrong pelvic floor exercise, in turn their prolapse problem will get worse, and that patient will complain of more pain. Okay, so for the weakness in muscle, pelvic floor is biofeedback is very important. On the other hand, if muscles are tight, again, you need biofeedback machine in which you teach the patient how to relax the muscle. So biofeedback actually is the machine in which you put different electrodes on your tummy, on your lower abdominal area, and you put one electrode inside the vagina, and you tell the patient to squeeze and relax, and they can see their contraction and relaxation on the screen of the computer. They can see their contraction in the form of the graph. So that is biofeedback. So biofeedback actually, it helps in promoting the patient learning about muscle contraction, and it has no side effect, and it is a very simple technique in which information about normal physiological process is presented to the patient by a subconscious method, or therapist. Like we also offer like visual, auditory, or tactile cues. And in this method, like we teach the patient about their muscle functioning in order to improve or motivate the patient effort during training. So this technique, biofeedback, is non-invasive, it is easily performed, and it gives feedback. That's why it's very important. Patient can literally see what they are doing, and it is very convenient, it is easily understood, and it function and it increase the confidence of the patient. So if you have, as I said, you can please suggest your patient in the clinic for the hemorrhoids, for the constipation, for the weak muscle. Please use biofeedback if you have in the clinic. Now, another machine that we use is stimulation unit. So Chartered Society of Physiotherapy, NICE guidelines, and various randomized controlled trial have suggested that after 3 or 4 months of physiotherapy, if muscles are not getting stronger, if muscles are not getting better, then yes, you can suggest the patient to try the stimulation unit. And what is that stimulation unit? Like, it comes with different programs, which I've discussed at my previous webinar as well. And depending on the problem, like this machine comes with stress incontinence program, overactive bladder program. Here we are talking of weak pelvic floor. So yes, you can choose for weak pelvic floor program, and you can send some electrical current inside the pelvic floor muscle, and it helped in enhancing the recovery of the pelvic floor muscle strength, and in turn it will improve the hemorrhoidal symptoms. Next slide please, which is showing the image of biofeedback and of yeah, is the same slide where they can see the
Yeah.
stimulation unit and all.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So you can see the image, and you can see that green one. It's a portable machine that we advise the ladies to buy from the market, and we also have in the department. And we also have that big machine you can see on the on the slide, on the screen like a computer. So we also have that biofeedback in our department. And that pinky one, that pink one, Pericom, it's the stimulation unit. So these are the things we use in our practice in order to strengthen or relax the pelvic floor muscle. Now, next slide, please.
Yes, ma'am.
So next slide is of warm water cis bath. Now that's very important part of the treatment for hemorrhoids. What is the warm water cis bath? It means that you have to, patients who are having hemorrhoids, they have to sit in the warm bath, and it is also advisable for the patient who have hemorrhoidectomy. So patient who had hemorrhoid surgery, they are also allowed to sit in the warm water. And it is also used for sometimes for anal fissure as well. So it means that you have to sit in a bowl, and you have to immerse your perineal buttock and the back passage, which is filled with warm water, which is approximately 40 to 42 degrees centigrade warm, only for 3 minutes. You can also have shower as well if you're not very comfortable, like if your patient is not comfortable to sit in the water, or if she's in lot pain, yes, you can avoid, and you can just tell her to shower, warm shower. Okay, so this warm cis bath relieve the pain by lowering the anal pressure, and it also help in keeping the anus clean, and it improve the blood circulation, and it relieve the congestion and edema, and it also help in relaxing the internal urethral sphincter, and it cause vesical contraction, and it also help in easing urination of the patient after specifically of the hemorrhoidectomy. Now there are many patients who use like different medication solution in the warm water. So yes, absolutely you can use this. So most commonly they use like potassium permanganate, vinegar, hydrogen peroxide, or some antiseptic solution in the bath. So you are keeping a big ball, you're filling with the warm water, only 40 to 40-degree warm, and you just immerse that part in your body where the hemorrhoids are, and you can put some solution. And sometimes people use oak bark. See, this oak bark has anti-inflammatory properties. So you can, but if you're not confident, you can ask from your gynecologist, and you can suggest your patient what to use, what not exactly. So next slide, please, which is showing the cis bath, the image of the cis bath,
Yes, sir.
please.
Yeah.
So this is the way it, yeah, this is very important treatment of the hemorrhoid. Another slide, please, which is of defecation counseling.
Yeah.
Now, another part in the physiotherapy in the physiotherapy is defecation counseling. Defecation counseling means you have to teach the patient how to pass number two, how to pass stool, what is the proper position for number two. So you can read as well, but it is a position that we advise to improve the defecation function. And in this, the body should lean forward slightly with the head. Your head should be straight or slightly tilted back with the eyes watching in front, and your stomach should be very relaxed, and your hip joint should be in 55-degree of flexion. Okay, so you're sitting on a toilet seat, keeping a stool, you're sitting upright, your hip should be in 55-degree of flexion, and your head should be, and you're looking straight in front. So this is the ideal way of sitting on the toilet seat. And why we are adopting this position, because this position improves the anorectal angle, and it also leads to the abduction or flexion and abduction of the hip. So this is very important position of evacuation. In other words, like we use in Indian toilet, so that's the same position of defecation. That's the ideal way of evacuation, sitting on the Indian toilet seat. So that's the ideal way of where your hips are going into flexion, and your hips are going into abduction as well. Now here also people have started in Western countries, like they are sitting on the toilet seat, but they can't adopt that position. As a result, they have developed this position is also known as squatty potty position. So in which we advise the same thing. So here it is known as squatty potty, which means that you have to sit on a commode, you have to keep a stool, and your hip should be for 55-degree, and hip should be in abduction. That's the same position what we use in India as well. Okay, so it's very, very important, like after finishing your bowel, you have to advise the patient that don't clean the passage with the tissue, but they have to clean the passages with the warm water. So that's very, very important advice you have to tell your patient, because if they're already having quite big hemorrhoid, and if they're wiping with the tissues, then they can bleed more and it will be more painful. So washing with the warm water after evacuation is very important. If you go on the next slide, please, which is showing the image of the defecation position.
Yes, ma'am.
Next slide, please. Now, another treatment is relaxation. So it's very, very important for, as a physio, that you have to teach the patient how to relax. So relax can be as relaxation techniques we have discussed already of the pelvic floor. Here I'm talking of psychological relaxation. There are so many research papers which all mention that people who are under stress, people who have anxiety, people who are depressed, or some other psychological issues, they often have tight pelvic floor muscle. Okay, so when you are assessing your patient, you also have to take their psychological history as well. You also have to ask patient how they feel overall, and specifically if patient who are having hemorrhoids, who are in pain, you will see those patients are quite depressed, quite frustrated, because they're not getting any treatment anywhere, and it's very annoying. So relaxation, psychological relaxation is very important. And because we know that autonomic nervous system, it influences our emotions. So it's mainly to relax our autonomic system. And we use different technique. You can advise the patient yoga, you can advise music therapy, or you can also advise Jacobson progressive relaxation technique. You can advise Alexandra technique. You can advise Chai Kun technique. You can advise Feldenkrais technique or dance movement therapy. So these are different varieties of relaxation technique. If you know any of that, yes, that's another part of the treatment of the hemorrhoids. Now, another thing is cleanliness or hygienic. It's very important to be clean and hygiene when you're having hemorrhoids, because as we have discussed, ladies who have hemorrhoids, they will bleed, they will have a lot of leaking from the back passage, they are staining their knickers. So it's very important, just tell them to wash their hands properly. They have to clean that area properly every time. They should have shower at least 2-3 times a day if they're leaking their number 2 or blood, or if they are having any mucousy discharge. They have to use the pads or knickers or panty liners, and it should be all disposable. They have to use wiping wipes, and they have to wipe their passages clinic. So what I'm trying to say, that this is also a very important part of the treatment, that you have to tell the patient to keep themselves very clean and hygienic, because it can give urine infection, it can give some other infections in the back passage if they are bleeding or leaking from the back. Next slide, please.
Yes,
now, another important treatment is ice packs. So people having hemorrhoids, as I mentioned, they complain of pain, and they will often, they will also have a lot of swelling in their back passage, right? So yes, we can advise, apart from warm cis bath, we can also suggest the patient to try cold fomentation. And ice has the advantage of reducing edema by vasoconstriction. It reduces the pain by producing substance locally. It decreases the inflammation. It controls the hemorrhage. It reduces the bacterial growth. It decreases the excitability of the free nerve ending. It increases the enzymatic activities, and it reduces the nerve conduction of the C fiber. So these are the advantages of using the ice packs. Okay, so for hemorrhoidal patient, yes, definitely you can suggest the ice packs, no problem at all. And another thing is cushions. So people having hemorrhoids, having swelling, lot of pain, please advise them not to sit on the hard surface. They have to sit on a cushion. They have to sit on a pillow. They have to avoid sitting on the hard surface. Otherwise, it will aggravate their hemorrhoidal symptom. They will feel more pain, and they will start feeling, they will start bleeding a bit more. Another one is anal plug or Contiform. These are the gadgets. You can see the image in the next slide in 1 minute. So anal plug and anal plug, my apologies, or Contiform, these are gadgets where you can use if patients are leaking from the back passage. Okay, if you know how to use the anal plug, absolutely fine, but you need to have a special training in that. If you're not confident, then yes, you can talk to the gynecologist and tell the gynecologist that this lady is having hemorrhoid, she is leaking from the back passage, and I recommend that she should use anal plug. Yes, and you can refer that patient to the consultant, and they will look into the matter. So anal plugs, Contiforms are the small gadgets we use patient having prolapse of the rectum, having constipation, and specifically for the hemorrhoids. Another treatment is refluxology. You can also refer the patient to specialists who are specialized in that. So that also come under conservative treatment. Next slide, please. So this slide is showing the, can you see all?
yeah.
So next slide is showing the Contiform. So you can see that blue one, the white small one, these are all Contiform we use for prolapse of the rectum and associated hemorrhoid. This is black round one is the anal cushion, hemorrhoidal cushion, my apologies. And this is anal plug. So you can see that the black one is going in the buds, that is anal plug. Next slide, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, very important thing, as we know, the main culprit of the hemorrhoid is the constipation. So there is so much of treatment separately to treat constipation. It's a very important try. Don't ignore constipation. because the hemorrhoid is the result of the constipation. So very important thing, you have to give all the information to your patient about constipation, what they should eat, what they should drink, they should not strain, they should not push, they should adopt the modified toilet seat position. And you have to tell the patient to digitate the back passage. So you know what is digitation? Digitation is a technique in which you use different methods of digitate your back passage, like supporting your perineum or keeping two fingers around the back passage and pressing in the upward direction, or you're also pressing through the vagina. So we use digitation technique in order to avoid straining or pushing. So proper information, education on effective defecation, that we have already discussed. You have to tell the patient how to sit on the toilet, so which I've already discussed. You have to tell the patient not to strain, but to digitate. You can also advise for rectal irrigation, but we don't do rectal irrigation. There is a specialized nurse. You can refer to for rectal irrigation if it's severe constipation. You have to give proper diet or fluid advice. You have to also tell the patient to do some deep breathing exercises. Yes, so we discussed that in the soft tissue release. You can also tell the patient to relax your pelvic floor by engaging your breathing techniques, by engaging your breathe, right? So we know that there is a direct relation between the breathing and the pelvic floor. So you can relax pelvic floor by teaching breathing exercises as well. You can use biofeedback, which I have already discussed. You can use different relaxation technique, which I have already discussed again, and laxative, suppositories, enemas, and behavioral training. Behavioral training means toilet training. So you have to tell the patient to empty the bowel regularly. So if you're seeing any patient and if she's saying, no, I open the bowel only once in a week, it is totally wrong. You have to tell the patient that you have to go at least 3 to 4 times in a week to open the bowel. So you can see you have so many things to do. If you are having any patient having constipation problem, you can advise. So that's the separate treatment for the constipation. So this is all about in physiotherapy. So pelvic floor exercises, education, relaxation, strengthening the muscle, biofeedback, stimulation, eyes, and hemorrhoidal massage. So many things to do. You can see that, you can take a note of that. As I said initially, it's a very general treatment, and depending regarding pregnancy, again, you have to take a proper history and you have to choose the treatment what I have mentioned, and you can advise to your patient. You can't use that all the treatment what I've discussed to all the pregnant ladies. Okay, you have to just choose one. This, okay, this will be good for this one, and that treatment will be good for that lady. You can't use. So proper history, thorough examination is required. But these are the treatment we use in physiotherapy in our practice. I use personally in my clinic for constipation and hemorrhoid. Now, another treatment is, we will talk about diet. So next slide, please.
Yes,
so the best treatment of the hemorrhoid is prevention. So it's always better to prevent the problem. Okay, so prevention is better than cure, as we know that. So if you're seeing any pregnant lady again, and if she's not having any hemorrhoid problem, you can just tell her that, okay, if you take a proper diet, or if you do your pelvic floor exercise, yes, we can prevent the hemorrhoid problem. So the best treatment is to take high fiber diet, high fluid intake, that can prevent the constipation. So what we are doing, actually, you can either if she's already having the hemorrhoids, you can advise for high fiber diet or lot of fluid intake. Or if any patient is complaining of constipation, just suggest her for the good diet and the fluid intake, so that we can prevent hemorrhoids to occur. Okay, so so there you can see on the slide, so different types of thing you can try. So from the vegetables, you can try beans, you can try broccoli, cabbage, artichokes, you can try spinach, you can try turnip, you can also try fenugreek leaves, lima beans, bottle gourd, you can try round gourd, you can try ridge gourd. So these are the vegetables. Or you can try spinach, green leafy vegetables, and sprouts, or so many things you can try in the vegetable. Regarding dry fruits and seed, So you can try raisins, you can try almonds, you can try pistachio, you can try walnuts, you can try pumpkin seed, you can try linseed, you can try flaxseed, you can try dry prunes, you can also try prune juice. So that you can advise to your patient. You can take a note of that. In cereals, you can try oats, you can try multigrain cereals, you can try whole wheat. And in spices, you can try ginger, you can try fennel, you can try cumin seed, thyme seed, coriander seed. In pulses, you can try black eye seed, you can try pinto beans, you can try green grams, which is moong dal, you can try chickpeas, you can try kidney beans, and any other beans you can try definitely. In milk product, you can try milk, you can try yogurt, you can try cheese, or any other type of dairy product, which all are good for constipation. In bread, we advise for whole grain bread. We don't advise white bread. White bread is not healthy at all. So advise brown bread or advise for seeded bread. These are quite good. Similarly, white rice, not healthy. Brown rice, very helpful. And in fruits, you can try guava, you can try kiwi, you can try passion fruits, you can try dates, you can try pears, prunes, apple, raspberry, blackberry, apricot, oranges, blueberries, peas, cheese, plums, so many things you can try. So these are the diet that, yes, you can advise. It's not the end of the list. If you know any other fruits, vegetable, which is really good in relieving the constipation and hemorrhoid, just go for it and advise. So it's a combination of the treatment where you are advising patient about diet, about fluid, and also choosing the best treatment from physiotherapy and just give to your patient, and definitely that patient will say, I'm absolutely fine and I'm not having any major hemorrhoidal problem. Now, what are the foods to avoid? So patient who are having constipation and specifically hemorrhoids, they have to avoid junk foods. They have to avoid pizza and burger or lot of spicy food, lot of oily stuff, a lot of ice cream, lot of cheese, biscuit, pastas, alcohol, or if there is any caffeinated drinks, lot of tea or coffee, lot of sauces like soya sauce or tomato ketchup, or unpasteurized milk, smoked fish, or undercooked eggs, or raw cooked eggs, or raw meat, or white bread, white rice, red meat, any type of processed food, frozen food, or too spicy or any junk foods you have to avoid. Okay, so apart from taking the advising the patient about diet or fresh food or green vegetables or fluid, there are many other things you can advise to your patient, such as you can advise the patient for doing regular exercises. You can advise the patient to avoid straining and pushing. You can advise for meditation. You can advise for mindfulness. You can advise for relaxation. Or you can also tell the patient that if you're sitting on the toilet, you can read a newspaper, you can read a book, or you can listen some music in order to relax. And they have to avoid take a medical history as well. So if they are taking any particular medication which is giving them more constipation, then yes, it is our job. If you're seeing a patient, you have to tell the patient to see the GP, your doctor, and try to avoid that medication if possible. So there are many medication like antibiotics. If you take a lot of antibiotics, it gives constipation. If you're on iron tablets, it will give you a lot of constipation, and there are various other. So this is something about diet. Next chart, please.
Yes, ma'am. Yoga.
So this is something about some diet, and you have to try. Next slide. Now then another one is, so we have done physiotherapy. You can see so many things to do in physio. You have seen what you can eat and what you can avoid, and other bits like meditation and all. And another part is yoga. So yoga, yes, we all know, we are nicely aware of yoga. It's very important thing. We celebrate International Day, and yoga people practice all over the world, and we use different yoga position to treat various condition, medical health issues. We use different yoga position in pregnancy also to treat various gynae issues. But I'm not sure how many of you are aware that we use different yoga positions, and which I have discussed in my slides in my presentation today, that we use different yoga position to treat hemorrhoids as well. As we all aware of that yoga, it's very important. It improves the circulation around the anal area. It improves the capillary flow, and it strengthens the surrounding connective tissue of the anus and of the rectum. It reduces inflammation. It helps in removing the toxin from the body. So in my practice, when I see any of the lady during pregnancy or after delivery and after examination and after thorough history and all, yes, I use some yoga techniques and I show them, I teach them to treat their hemorrhoidal problem. So you can also, if you're seeing any patient, again, yes, I would say you can use yoga position both during and after pregnancy. But again, I have put very general yoga positions related hemorrhoid. You have to choose which is best for your patient. So the first one is Mula Bandha. So Mula Bandha, it's not the position. Actually, it is in the yogic, in yoga, Mula Bandha is the center point of the pelvic floor, which is in what we call in physiotherapy, it's the perineal body. So Mula Bandha actually is the center point of the pelvic floor, which is the perineal body. Okay. So in yoga also, there are many yoga positions which involves the Mula Bandha, which involves the pelvic floor. Okay. And it helps in relieving the constipation and hemorrhoids problem. So this Mula Bandha influence the intra-abdominal pressure through the work with pelvic floor muscle. And these muscles, pelvic floor muscles, are very important and has a positive impact on the treatment of constipation and hemorrhoid. So yeah, so that's it's not the position actually. I just wanted to tell you that it's a point in the it's the center point of the pelvic floor. Next slide, please. So you
Yes,
can
ma'am.
see in the diagram, which is showing the point of the pelvic floor, that red spot is the Mula Bandha. You can see that. So this is the center point of the pelvic floor where our perineum is. Another slide, please.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
the important position is Bhastrika Pranayam, which is known as the blacksmith, bellow breath, or the breath of the fire, as you all aware of. It's a very intense breathing, which is engaging the diaphragm and other abdominal muscle and giving a very strong stimulus and massage to all the abdominal and the pelvic organ. So you know that Bhastrika Pranayam, like in which you're breathing very rapidly, and we already know the relation of the breathing with the pelvic floor muscle. So by teaching that pranayam, Bhastrika Pranayam, you're improving the breathing, but you're also helping in strengthening the pelvic floor, and you're also massaging your abdominal muscles at the same time. So patient who are having any abdominal issues, like patient having irritable bowel syndrome or diverticulitis or any other tummy issues, this is really good pranayam. So it promotes the blood circulation, and it focus on the abdominal and pelvic area where all the energetic center is located, and it's very closely associated to the pelvic floor muscle. Now, very important thing I would like to say, if you teach your patient, if any of you practice yoga, then you have to avoid mulasana. What is mulasana? Mulasana means deep squatting. So patient who are having hemorrhoids, if they are in pain, they are bleeding, you can't advise them deep squats. You have to avoid deep squatting position in the yoga practice, because that will increase the circulation around the hemorrhoids and it will make the situation worse. Next slide, please. So that
Yes,
is
ma'am.
Bhastrika. Himanshu, I will take another 5, 10, 10, 15 minutes. Are you okay? Because we are, I
Yeah,
think I'm going beyond the time.
it's okay, ma'am. It's okay. And we are on this Bhastrika slide.
Okay, so this is your Bhastrika rapid breathing. Next slide, please. So another important yoga is Sarvangsana, which is the shoulder stand. Now this is very important to treat piles. Inverted posture like Sarvangsana or Sirsasana, they are really helpful. They relieve the irritation and the pain from the hemorrhoids, and they also reduce the pressure on the veins, which occur after a long period of standing or sitting. So any type of inverted yoga pose, they facilitate the venous and the lymphatic drainage, and it improves the circulation. And this study was done by Govindraj in 2016. So It improves the, and this asana, Sarvangsana, it's also very, very important. It improves the reproductive organ, both in men and women, and they are very beneficial in draining the stagnant blood from the anus. So this is another important position, Sarvangsana. Now, happy baby pose, here in the UK, there are many physiotherapists and yoga therapists who use this position. So happy baby pose, like open and relax the pelvis, pelvic floor muscle, and it stretch the groin, hip joint, and related muscle. So this position is very important, and this help in balancing between the tension and the relaxation of the pelvic floor, which is very important in the treatment of the hemorrhoids and patient who are having any incontinence problem or digestion abnormalities. And it is also very important yoga after the childbirth for the woman recovery. So you can see the images. So next slide, please. So you can
Yes,
see
ma'am.
Sarvangsana and the happy baby pose, how to do that. So in the next slide. Next slide, please.
Yes, ma'am. Tadasana.
So another slide, another one is Tadasana. So Tadasana means mountain pose, which means Tala means palm, which is tree in Sanskrit. In this posture, the body is held upright like the trunk of the palm tree, and in this position, the body is well stretched and well proportionate, and it expands the rib cage, and it increases the capacity of the lung, and it improves the oxygenated blood supply. So it forms the respiratory muscle of the neck, lower back, abdomen, and pelvis. And specifically, because when you are doing Tadasana, you are stretching the whole body, so it improves the blood circulation all over the body, and specifically in the anal and the perianal area. Now, if you want to go, because it's not in depth, I'm not discussing with you depth. These positions are all the positions which I'm discussing with you now. This is to treat any type of digestive problem, abdominal problem, hemorrhoids specifically, and the constipation. If you want to go in the depth of that, yes, you can go on YouTube, because I have time limitation, so I'm not going into depth of each position. So I'm really sorry for that. Surya Namaskar, as we all know, sun salutation. Surya Namaskar, it's a very ancient and very sacred yogic technique for expressing the gratitude to the sun. And we know that Surya Namaskar, it's a set of 12 asana, and it is done preferably in the morning while facing the rising sun. And there are numerous health benefits of the Surya Namaskar for different systems. It's not only for hemorrhoids or constipation. We advise Surya Namaskar for musculoskeletal problem, for cardiovascular, gastrointestinal, nervous system, respiratory, and endocrinal system. So by practicing Surya Namaskar, each and every cell of the body get revitalized and regenerated, my apologies, and therefore it is highly recommended by all the yoga experts for healthy routine life. So you can suggest this yoga position even like normally for patient not having hemorrhoids as well. But how it is important in hemorrhoids? So it helps in regulating the menstruation cycle, and it also helps in facilitating the easy childbirth. Surya Namaskar. So regular Surya Namaskar practice improve digestion, it improves constipation, and it helps in different gastrological problem. So this position is very important to treat constipation and digestion problem, and indirectly you're treating the hemorrhoids as well. Another slide is Shirshasana, which is the headstand. So one of the benefit of the headstand is to calm the brain, to help to relieve the stress and the depression. So mostly people use this position to relieve some anxiety or depression or stress. So this position is most commonly also used for patient having some digestive problem, because it increase the digestive energy, and it increase the body heat, and it helps in cleansing or cleaning the intestine by the reversing the pull of the gravity, and it helps in turn relieve the constipation problem. So that's another very important to treat constipation. And another one is camel pose, which is Ushtasthana. So sorry for that, Ushtasthana. So camel pose, one can feel a stretch in the spinal cord and neck, in the stretch in the neck, in the abdomen, and on the shoulder. So this is also very beneficial in patient who are having low back pain, or patient complaining back passage pain because of the hemorrhoids. So this camel pose is very, very important. And you can see all, next slide please. So you can see all, so the first one is Tadasana, then second one is your Surya Namaskar, then Shirshasana, which is standing on the head, and camel pose. So yep, can people see? Yeah.
Yeah.
Now another position is Nokasena. Noka means boat, as we know. So this is also very important position. So the body weight is balanced on the, in this position, Nokasena, the body weight is balanced on the abdominal muscles, and they are given pressure so that intra-abdominal organs like stomach, liver, spleen, pancreas, or intestine are massaged by the change in the pressure. So this position actually help in massaging those organs, and in turn it improve the constipation problem and hemorrhoidal problem. So by doing this boat pose, it improves the secretion of the organ, it improves the peristalsis movement of the intestine, and as I said, it relieves the constipation as well. So the blood flow to the abdominal organ is also improved. And with regular practice of this asana, it will reduce the fat around the abdomen and the thighs area, and there is a complete stretch from the fingertip to the toes, and it's really releasing the tension in the whole body. Another one is Ardha Katri Chakrasana, which is the half moon pose. See, there are so many yoga positions, but these positions are really good for hemorrhoids and constipation. So please use them, but search more about it, in the sense, if you want more detail, you have to check on the Google, or you can go for research paper actually. So I've just searched all from the research paper. So there is a research behind. Now, Ardha Kanti Chakrasana means semicircle is formed at the waist by lateral bending. So you're just bending on your side, and it enhances the flexibility and the digestive power. So that's why this asana is very, very important, because it is improving your digestive, improving your digestive system, and in turn it helps in relieving the constipation and the piles problem. And another one is Parvatsana, as the name suggests, mountain pose. So Parvatsana is a simple seated asana, which is considered to be one of the most important seated posture in yoga, and it helps in curing the constipation by improving the hemorrhoids. And so next slide, please.
Yes, ma'am.
So you can see the images, you can Parvasana, you can see that Ardha Kati Chakrasana and other positions. So this is the way you have to do. Another slide, please. So the next asana, which is very important for your abdominal problem, constipation, indigestion, and piles, is Padhasana. Padhasana, it benefits in strengthening the abdominal organs. It eliminates the possibility of the bloating of abdomen. It also helps in relieving the constipation, indigestion, and other gastric problems, which are the major problem of the piles. Paschimottanasana. So this is another asana. It means intense stretch of the waist, or it is also known as seated forward bending. So it helps in relieving constipation, flatulence, and diabetes, and it is the mainstay of the asana practice. Excuse me. This posture actually stretches the spine, hamstring muscle, and shoulder, and it encourages the free flow of the breath, and it stimulates the liver and kidney and the digestive organ. So this is very important asana. Vajrasana, which you know, diamond pose. This pose resembles as of namaz pose, and it is a very good meditative pose, as we know. Specifically for those people, this is very important pose who are having low back problem, or who are complaining of low back pain or sciatica because of the hemorrhoids. Now it's very, very important to know, if you are seeing any patient having hemorrhoid, they can often complain of pain not only in the back passage, but they will complain of pain in the buttocks, in the low back area. So if you are seeing patient complaining that, oh, I'm having low back pain, just ask them, are you having hemorrhoids? Because hemorrhoid pain can radiate to the tailbone, can go to the back, to the lower back area, can go in the buttocks, and sometimes they come into the hips as well. Okay. Now Mayura, okay. So next slide, please.
Yes, ma'am.
So you can see all these images, how to do Paschimottanasana, Vajrasana. So these are the yoga positions. Another slide, which is Mayurasana. In this asana, the whole of the body is held like a stick on both of the elbows, like just assuming the shape of the peacock, and the entire body weight is concentrated on the abdomen, such that abdominal organs get stimulated and get relieved from any type of abdominal disorder. So doing this yoga, it's help in relieving all abdominal disorder. Pavan Muktasan, as we know that it's a wind removing asana, and it strengthens the abdominal muscle and liver and spleen and pancreas and stomach. So person who are suffering from constipation must do this after drinking warm water for proper evacuation of the bowel in the morning. And this is the best asana to expel gas by compression of the abdomen. So this asana is particularly useful for removing constipation and flatulence, which are the major cause of the piles. So next slide, please, which is showing the diagram of Pavan Muktasan.
Yeah.
Now another slide, please. So another pose is Halasana, which is the flow pose. Halasana, it's a very yogic exercise of more or less same variety of Sirasana or Sarvangsana. So the stretching movement gives an additional benefit in making us flexible and strengthen our spine and back muscle, which relieves the backache. Excuse me, which relieves the backache because of the pile, and it is also helpful in curing indigestion, dyspepsia, and various other abdominal ailments like constipation, acid reflux, which is very common and very irritating disorder. And another one is Padmasana, which is a lotus pose. It is very important meditative yoga position, which involves pelvic region, coccygeal region, and the sacral region. And after doing this particular asana, all the nerves supplying this area get nicely toned up, and it enhances the circulation in the lumbar and abdominal region, and it helps in healing the piles. And there are some, so next slide, please.
Yes,
so you can see how to do that. Yeah, you can see Padmasana and this Halasana, how to do that.
Yeah.
Another slide, please. Now, because of the time, first of all, the asanas which I have told you, these are all called superficial. That's why I just wanted to give you the name of the asanas which are really helpful in treating hemorrhoids, and the advantage of doing those hemorrhoids. I have not gone into the depth of the each and individual asana, so because I have only 1 hour and I'm going beyond the time, so I'm really sorry again. And there are some other asanas which I've just put the name just for your information, which are really important for hemorrhoids. So Matsya Asana, Ashwini Madhura, Jalaniti, and Vaman Dhauti, and Viparkita Karani, and Halasana, and Go Mukhasana. These are some other yoga positions which helps in treating hemorrhoids problem. And the last but not the least, and just in one line, apart from physiotherapy, the things that we have discussed, apart from yoga positions which we have discussed today, and the diet, there are some other treatment just for your knowledge. Alternative treatment, it includes number of ambulatory intervention that usually do not need anesthesia. So the alternative treatment to treat hemorrhoids could be injections, it could be sclerotherapy, it could be rubber band ligation, it could be cryotherapy, it could be infrared photocoagulation, and laser therapy. Okay, so these are the alternative treatment which consultant or doctor use. Medication, stimulants or depressant of the bowel transit like creams, ointments, ice, suppositories containing anesthesia, anti-inflammatories, steroids, vasoconstrictor, cortisone, antibiotics, phlebotomics or glucosteroids, or stimulant laxative or bulk forming laxative. So these are the medication which doctor advise. And the surgery of the hemorrhoids are hemorrhoidectomy, rubber band ligation, sclerotherapy, coagulation, and hemorrhoidal stapling. So this is all the treatment of hemorrhoidectomy. And that's the end of the webinar today. So very thanks to all of you for listening to me today. Thank you, Himanshu.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thanks a lot for such a great, detailed, and elaborative session. And even though I would like to say that we were learning and we were enjoying the learning, because we have maintained around 90% attendance during the session. Even though it
Oh,
is
lovely.
late, still we had the attendance, means the participants were very keen to learn, and we were really enjoying the learning. And it was a really, everything you have covered in a well detailed way, and it was, I would say, this was an outstanding session, and we have
Thank
covered
you very much.
everything. It is like
I
uh,
think
short workshop
I
we have
feel
covered it.
personally it was very brief. I told everything. I was rushing around. I was missing, and I thought I told everything in quite brief actually. So it's all like 1 hour. I think it's quite less. So I
Yeah,
need
yeah.
nice 2 3 hour to explain.
But still you have covered everything. I can see the even every aspect of the treatment was so detailed and so elaborative. So we learned a
Thank you
lot,
very
ma'am,
much.
really. And it was a short workshop, I would say. It was a very good
Thank you very
short
much.
workshop session, and we have learned a lot. And many of the things we will definitely try to practice, and at least we will now have an idea that this is again the area of physical therapy. It is especially for
Yes.
our beginners, students who are joining us. This is the physical therapy, and how the physical therapy can create magics in the various medical as well as surgical conditions. And
Yes,
really thankful to
absolutely.
you, ma'am, for sharing your personal experience and sharing your experience, expertise, and your knowledge among this topic. And it really
Thank you
shows
very much.
that you have done so much of hard work, and it is a great dedication you have shown. And very
Thank you very
interestingly,
much, Himanshu.
yeah, yeah, ma'am. Interestingly, I would like to inform you one more thing, that we are receiving very good feedback in the chat box, and many of the
Lovely.
senior
Thank you.
faculty members and academicians also had given a very good valuable feedback for this session. And few of the queries were there when it was 10:30 or 10:40, and the query has been already sorted out during the session, because some of the person had asked about the pictures of the asana, I hope so. So they may have seen this, and everything I have seen 2 3 questions, but they were already covered, so it was really outstanding session. And still I,
Thank you very much.
with your kind permission, if anyone has any query, they can ask till now even.
Anybody is there to ask?
No, actually, I'm just looking for the chat box. Still, there is no. Even though, ma'am, I would like to convey some best regards from the great physios, Dr. Kapila Jain, my own teachers,
Oh,
Dr. Charu Sharma, ma'am, from the Washington, USA. Ma'am, I think she just left for the session just before 3 4 minutes. She had just conveyed the message for you that it was an outstanding session, and we had a great learning, and everything we have covered in so much a detailed way. So,
thank
ma'am,
you.
really, it was an outstanding session. And
Thank you very much, Himanshu.
there is one question, I think. Dr. Neha, if you have any question, please write down in the chat box. It would be easy. Yeah, ma'am. Shall I go ahead with the questions?
Yes, please.
Yeah. There's one query from Dr. Shweta, that can you please have a brief overview on the indications of cold versus warm therapy?
Cold versus?
Warm therapy, hot.
Yeah, so cold therapy, as I mentioned, like if you are having patient complaining of lot of pain or bleeding or swelling, then yes, you can advise for cold therapy. And we have discussed the advantage of cold therapy, that cold has the tendency of improving the circulation and relieving the pain as well. And so what type of like cold packs, see advantages I've discussed already. But cold packs, what you can do, you can advise the patient either if they have ice packs, or they can use ice cube, they can crush it, they can put in a small piece of towel or napkin, and they can just put it on the back passage in the sideline position. So you can advise the cold packs to your patient at home, and they can use it at least 3 or 4 times or 5 times a day for 10 15 minutes depending on the severity. And regarding your hot packs, like patient who are having bleeding, so patient who are bleeding, please don't advise that cis bath which I mentioned. But if they are complaining of pain, if they are having swelling, they can go for cis bath as well. So you have to make the decision whether to use ice packs or hot packs depending on the condition.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot for such a great deliberation. And
Thank
there
you.
is one more query. If there is a poxidynia along with the hemorrhoids, then what we can suggest?
So first thing, it depends on, you have to find out, you have to do a proper examination, and you have to find out whether the pain is coming from the hemorrhoids and pain is coming from the tailbone pain. And then uh, if you think, okay, if you think that pain is from the from the tailbone pain, and patient is also having hemorrhoids and you can't do manipulation, if you are confident, then you can do vaginal manipulation as well. So if you are planning to vaginally manipulating the tailbone, you can just, if you know how to do it, yes, absolutely, you can do it. Or if it depends on how big the hemorrhoids are. For instance, if the hemorrhoids are very small, then yes, you can go for the back passage. You can put your finger in the back passage and you can treat the tailbone pain. You can manipulate the tailbone pain by putting your finger in the vagina, in the rectum. However, if the hemorrhoids are really quite big, then the first thing is you have to treat the hemorrhoid. And then once hemorrhoids are getting better, then you have to work on the tailbone pain. Okay, so it depends on the severity of the hemorrhoids, actually, depending on how the patient is feeling. But yes, if you know rectal manipulation of the tailbone pain, if you know vaginal manipulations of the tailbone pain, or if you know how to externally manipulate the tailbone pain, absolutely you can use any of the technique. But it depends on the severity of the hemorrhoid. If it's only one tiny little hemorrhoid and it's not affecting any way, then you can just do it, no problem as well. So it all depends on patient.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah. There is one more query. Is taking laxative on the daily basis is okay for the constipation? I hope.
For the constipation, sorry.
Yeah. Actually, it is not being specified here, but the question is taking laxatives like yellow fever is
Laxative,
okay.
no, it's not ideally very good to take laxative on daily basis, because you should know the reason why you're taking the laxative. And ideally it's good to take the normal diet, the things that we have discussed today. You should drink a lot of water and eat healthy stuff. So that it's very nice to try the natural things. And because you can have some complications of laxative if you're taking for a longer period of time. So if you're severely constipated, then you have to seek some medical help. And you can take laxative for a few months. But if you're planning to take daily basis or for whole life, so ideally it's not a good practice. So ideally not. But again, this question is like, laxative is okay to take on daily basis. I would say you have to take into consideration so many things. Like if you have any medical health issues, like for example, if you have irritable bowel syndrome, or if you have diverticulitis, and if you're taking laxative on daily basis, it can give you problems, in the sense it will give you a lot of wind problem. It can give you a lot of leaking from the back passage, and it will make your bowels more looser, and you will start leaking, staining your knickers. So yeah, you have to make sure why you have to take laxative every day, and proper medical history examination is required. I can't say directly yes, you can take laxative. No, it's not ideally advisable to take for whole life or for every day.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. There's one more query from someone that can we start with the cold bath and then proceed to the hot bath, hot seat bath? In
Again,
which
it
condition?
depends actually. See, it depends on the patient condition. So it's very hard to say. So if I'm saying yes, go for cold bath first and then hot bath. So please don't go for it. That's why I said the treatment which I have mentioned, it's a general treatment that you can use. So when to use, how to use, and what technique to use, it all depends on you actually, how, what you are examined, and what type of patient you are seeing, what the patient is complaining. So it all depends on that actually. So you have to make your own decision as a clinician, as a physio, that whether I should go for hot bath, warm sits bath, hot packs, or whether I should go for ice. It depending on the situation of the hemorrhoids, depending on the patient, depending on patient complaint. So this is very hard to say. So this is, there comes our role as a clinician. You have to see the patient, take a proper history, examination, and consultation, and then you have to make the judgment whether cold is first or hot is first, or whether you need hot or you need only cold. So that all you have to make decision. So there is no such things that always go for hot and then for ice. It's all yeah, depending on patient.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. There's one more request from the participants. Can you please share your contact number or mail ID for further reference?
They want my number.
Yeah, number or the mail ID.
Oh, mail ID number. I think if I is that okay if I can't have, but I have my own group. So if that person is okay to give her number to you, Himanshu, if you don't mind, and I already have your number, and if you forward that number to me, please. So
Okay.
if that person is okay, I will add into my group if she wants to add in my group.
Okay. Sure, ma'am.
If you don't mind, please.
No, no, no issue, ma'am. No issue. It's my pleasure and it's my duty. Please.
No,
So
it's
if anybody, yeah. So if anybody please needs, you can message me and I'll provide you the contact number. There's no issue.
please, yeah, yeah.
Sure.
Thank you.
So,
Any
ma'am,
other question?
yeah. One more last question with actually there are a lot of queries and they are actually indicating that how much curious we are about this session and how interestingly we have learned for this session. So really,
Thank
ma'am,
you
it
very much.
is a great session. So
No, I need
the
to know
last
as
question will be a
well
question.
that I need to know if you have some feedbacks. I need to know that what people are thinking after, because I need to know whoever are listening to me today or who have listened to me.
Yeah.
I need to know how people are treating hemorrhoids in their practice. So I need to know the feedback,
Yeah.
what they think, right? So I would appreciate if we discuss the feedbacks, like what patient think about, physiotherapists are thinking about hemorrhoids and their treatment and what they use in their practice. Because I think in India, I think physiotherapy, or in not in India actually, it's here also. I think people are not treating that much of hemorrhoids. So that's why I decided to go for this topic. It's very important to treat this, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So I would request all the participants, please kindly share your feedback in the chat box. Even though if you find, you can also share it to me later on and I'll forward it to ma'am. But it is more suitable, you can share it right now. Though we can have and your feedback always matters a lot, means a lot to us. So kindly do share your valuable feedback to us.
So actually it will help me for creating more awareness. So that's why I need to know what people are thinking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I would request all the
Any other,
participants. Yeah.
any other questions,
Yeah,
Himanshu?
ma'am. The last question is how we can treat the patient with the second degree uterus prolapse, descent, and along with the hemorrhoids.
Okay, so yes, you can easily treat second degree uterine prolapse. Means your prolapse is descending and sitting in the middle of the vagina. So yes, you have to teach the pelvic floor exercises, very important. And for second degree, pelvic floor exercises are very helpful. So you can advise the patient 3 times or 5 times a day to do pelvic floor exercise. Pelvic floor exercises help in pushing back the prolapse up. It relieves the dragging sensation in the vagina and it prevents further aggravation. And as we have also discussed today, the pelvic floor exercises help in relieving the hemorrhoids as well. So secondly, you have to advise the patient to avoid constipation.